fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration, and I've got the man back. It's been a while. I figured before the convention he'd show back up, and here he is. I'm looking at it that way. Hey, let me ask you something. How is it you stay so slim? Like seriously, I do a walking route every day, 6 days a week, and I weigh about 250. I can't lose weight. But every time I see you, and you work up there at the hall all day long, what's your secret? Because I'm going to say it pisses me off that you're slim all the time and my ass is big. And so I was wondering if you could help me out with that.
Well, pretty simple. One, my branch president doesn't allow lunch breaks.
Oh,
Yeah, so that makes
never
it
mind.
tough.
I don't want her ass on me.
That makes it tough.
I don't want her ass on me. Never mind. Because she'll whip mine and your ass.
Two, after hours, my day doesn't stop when I leave the branch, and I have a very, very active 10-year-old who's decided that he wants to play sports continuously year-round. So
Right.
Regardless if we're at the ball field, we're in the backyard, we're doing something. So
Okay.
a combination of no lunch and activities when I clock out.
All right. I'm not mad at you anymore. But it's good to have you back.
Good to be here.
I'm going to get to JB in just a second. He's going to do something that a lot of people have reached out about, oddly enough, requesting LWOP and management changing it to AWOL. But he's also going to do a couple other things for you that I think will be very important. And so I put JB up against anybody in the country as far as educating and getting those grievances ready for arbitration. I think he's the best. When I'm business agent, he will be one of my weapons, and I will use him around the region. It's unfortunate that, with this podcast, I got blackballed, but with him being associated with me, he has as well. And that's ignorance. That's petty ignorance. I would use him, even like I said, if I become business agent and people tell me, man, JB said you was the dumbest motherfucker there is, I'm gonna use JB to death because my pride is not that important. Educating the members is, and so I'm just gonna tell you now, brother, I'm gonna work your ass to death when I'm business agent around this region because I want my people educated, and I think he's the best at doing it. All right, we're gonna talk about this 50-50 raffle again. Now, a lot of people have reached out to me saying that they don't have Zelle or the capability of using Zelle. Some states, I guess, don't do Zelle. I don't know. But they said they've been trying to do it, but they can't do it through Zelle. I will find out how you can get these tickets because a lot of people aren't going to Boston but still want tickets, how we can do that if you don't have Zelle capability. And so I'll find that out. I'll have that ready for you Sunday. All right? But the 50-50 raffle, again, all proceeds to benefit MDA. The drawing is Friday, August 9th at the NALC convention. Only 5,000 tickets available. Again, that was 3 weeks ago. $12,500 prize if all the tickets are sold. Now, I need that money, and so hopefully I'll win. That's $5 for each ticket. Zelle only accepted until July 31st, and again, I will figure out. I will contact the people that are doing this and see what we can do, regardless of Zelle, and being as the Zelle doesn't work for them. And so also the shirts, again, they gave me an update today. They went nuts, and that's fantastic, and I love hearing that. Again, all those proceeds will go to MDA as well. And I'm not going to talk a whole lot. I know JB's ready to get home. So he just walked in. It's 5:30. So he's had a long day. I'm still in my uniform, so I'm going to get him in here so he can get out of here and get back to his family. So you ready, my brother?
I'm ready.
All right. So JB's going to talk to you about requesting LWOP, management changing it to AWOL, and a couple other things. All right. Here's JB.
Well, all right, everyone. I am back. Not sure if it was by popular demand, but nevertheless, I am here. Feels like I just left here yesterday. And then I looked back and seen that it's been since April that last time that I came on here and did an episode. But if you're anything like me, time has just flown, and it just continues to get faster and faster. And that's just being busy and just everything that goes on in our day-to-day activities and lives. I'm sure you're like me. You turn around and look, and you can't believe how much time's already gone by and that a half a year already came and gone. A lot of that is, I'm happy to say and report that I am a grandfather now. Hard to believe. I'm 45 years old, but now I'm the newest granddad for my grandson. Couldn't be happier. It's been an extraordinary time to be able to enjoy with my family and to welcome him into this world, and just being able to surround him with all the love and affection that he deserves, but to see my daughter become a mom and everything that you raise your children in hopes to be. And so I'm very excited for her and extremely proud to say that I am now a granddad, which is scary as hell. Like I said, I'm 45 years old and I feel 25 in my heart. My body doesn't feel 25, but nevertheless in my mind, sometimes I think I am 25 years old. But I'm extremely excited for the future, to have this grandson here, to be able to help my daughter raise him and be in his life. And so we are extremely excited to say that. So just wanted to share that. Also, you know, I love to coach, and baseball season was in full swing last time I was here in April. And it was a fantastic season. We had a great team. We were able to accomplish our regular season champs. We went on to postseason play where we were 18-2. Unfortunately, the 2 losses came in the state tournament down here in Tennessee, where we ended up Tennessee State runner-ups. But I couldn't be more proud of these young boys. They have definitely experienced triumph with state championship victories in the past, but this time we came up a little short with Tennessee State runner-ups. But nevertheless, along the way, we were 18 wins, 2 losses. We're able to win 2 tournaments, won the district tournament, went on to represent in the Tennessee State tournament, but just came up a little bit short. But my life from the 3rd week of May until the 2nd week of July has been nothing but grieve, meet, sleep, practice, repeat. And that's what it's been. It has been grievances, union, and baseball, and the grandson and everything in between. So when I say time has flown by, it has literally flown by. Like that movie with Bill Murray, where each day he wakes up and it's Groundhog's Day and he does the same thing and he tries to get a different outcome, but no matter what he does, the next day he wakes up and it's Groundhog's Day all over again. That's been me for the past several months now. So again, I've had a blast with the addition of a grandson with the baseball team and the boys, and just being a part of their lives. They were 9 years old this year, so they'll move up to 10-year-old, 10U next year. And so we'll get together and we'll make another run at it, but I'm looking forward to it. We've already started practicing and we got the fall season upon us, so we'll be getting into that before too long. Like always, before I get started, I always do want to give homage to those that have been a part of helping me get to where I am at this moment. And I want to continue that education. I want to continue that process. But nevertheless, I always want to give thanks to those that have helped me. And that is what really inspires me to want to give back, because some individuals took time out of their lives to help me become a better representative for this union. And while this list is too many to name, I always want to stop and say thank you to each and every one of those people, regardless of where we stand at the moment, good or bad. Nevertheless, they have been instrumental in my upbringing and getting me to where I'm at, and hopefully to where I want to go. Where I want to go, I don't know. I know right now I'm the formal Step A for Nashville installation. Do serve as an outside steward and an arbitration advocate, so those things are big to me, and I want to continue to grow in that area. But nevertheless, where I want to go is where the door opens and leads me. So I do want to thank those people that have always been there, that have always looked after me, that have helped me. They've always paid it forward. And that is the key thing that I've taken away from a lot of my experience with the NELC. It's not to covet the information, to hoard over it. It is to relinquish that information, to spread it out to as many individuals as you can, to assist them in becoming the best capable individual or representative that they can be. And so as long as that we're paying it forward, this representative duties that we share will continue to grow, and individuals become better and better at being respective representatives for their membership. They'll be able to assist their brothers and sisters more adequate if we're constantly trying to spread the wealth, if we're paying it forward to the individuals that are trying to learn and gain the knowledge to be the best representative, whether that's a shop steward, a formal Step A representative, a DRT member, an arbitration advocate, an individual that's trying to make sure that an individual, a membership or a member, is getting the best representation that they can in the grievance outlet, because that is the only outlet mainly that a letter carrier has to protest a decision where they feel like they have been wronged and an opportunity to make that wrong right. So we can always do our due diligence in trying to spread the knowledge to as many people that are willing to listen and want to apply that knowledge to help them become better representatives. Definitely always say thank you. I feel like I have the best shop stewards. They are always constantly working, trying to gain knowledge, doing steward training, working on their grievances, trying to put the best case files they can together. That way when they meet at informal Step A, they have a good grievance case file. They have their arguments that they're ready to present. And when they do not come to an agreement and they pass that grievance home to me, my work is now minimal compared to what it would be if I didn't have a steward that was willing to put in that work and that effort to make that grievance case file the best that it can be. So I can't thank my stewards enough. My branch president, that was a joke. We do get lunch, and I take it back. We do get a lunch break, but nevertheless, she has always been instrumental as making sure that we are doing everything that we can to better educate our stewards. As far as our steward training, our membership meetings have become even better, and then our branch as a whole has become more united. And so for her, I can't tell you how proud of the things that she has done and accomplished so far. Always tell Corey thank you. When I say I give thanks to those that have helped me, this individual just happened to be the first. And lucky me that I ran across Corey first. But we had similar like minds in the very, very beginning. And when we started to talk and discuss matters, I could tell not only that he was very, very intelligent and fluent in this matter, and that he had just a huge amount of experience, but was willing to stop. And like I said, and to pay it forward and to help me be able to develop and become a better representative for our branch. And that has been instrumental. He's still one of my shop stewards, and so I can't thank him enough for the work that he does on the workroom floor. But he's also my arbitration advocate, and the best advocate out there, hands down. I put him up against anybody. He gives me a lot of praise that I do not ask for or feel deserved. But I will tell you this, he does deserve it. His advocacy work is second to none. Case preparation, the knowledge that he has when he walks in the room, the preparedness that he has. There's never been a time in any hearing that we've been a part of where we were outworked or we were not prepared as much as management. We have always said that we're going to win this hearing, and I've never been a part of a hearing that we didn't win. I can say I've walked out of some hearings where I thought the janitor was going to have to come down with the mop bucket and mop management up out of the room. And we might not have been successful, but I knew right then that we did everything humanly possible to give that arbitrator something to hang on to give us a successful, sustained grievance. But second to none. And so for that, I will always be thankful for him and everything that he's contributed to me. What about Boston? Boston's coming around the corner, and I am extremely excited. One, I take it very, very serious to be a representative as a delegate from my branch. I look forward to that camaraderie with my other delegates from my branch. They are not all grievance representatives or in the grievance process. Some of them are branch officers, retirees. They are members, a part of my branch, and I look forward to being able to serve along with them as a delegate to the convention upcoming here in Boston. And so I also look forward to seeing individuals that I've met in my past that I've been able to either go to trainings with or even Leadership Academy, LA25. I always want to give them a shout out. Great group of individuals and friends that you only see from time to time for events like this, but I look forward to seeing those individuals, and I can't tell you how much I enjoy hearing the things that they have done and the growth that they've had in their respective duties. But the convention is like something no other that I've been a part of. Chicago was the first time I went to a convention, and when I walked in, I was in utter awe of just the mass amount of people, brothers and sisters, collectively coming together under one roof. And it really spoke to my heart, spoke to me as a member of this NALC, and it's something that I look forward to get back to, just to be a part of my union, to be a part of the NALC, and to enjoy the camaraderie of my not only my branch delegates, but also the other individuals that I've become good friends with. So definitely looking forward to Boston. It should definitely be a lot of stuff going on in Boston, and I'm sure a lot are aware. But we look forward to getting there and seeing what comes out of the convention. Also, to my CLC affiliation, Mr. James Henry, I couldn't be more impressed with Mr. Henry and his decision to stand up and try to give us change. And my personal views may be different from somebody else's personal views, but they're my views. And my view is I elect change. I'm in support of change from the current helm. And that's my personal decision. But I'm thankful that an individual has picked up that flag and decided to push forward and try to bring change in a hopefully positive manner to this great NALC. For me personally, I feel like in my world, in the grievance process and handling the situations that I handle, I feel like our grievance procedure has gotten diluted. And that's something that I hope comes with change, is a stronger grievance procedure and accountability on the part of management. I feel like it's just been too laxed, is better words. And so I'm hopeful that here in 2 years, that not only this momentum that is carrying forward right now, that momentum will continue to grow, and that Mr. Henry will be successful, and I give him my full support and look forward to his presidency. Well, sorry about the recap and going over me, but I do wanted to take time out to at least give a little bit of a update as far as what's been going on in my life, and if anybody cares. But nevertheless, I wanted to give a little bit of an update. I also, I always want to say thanks, and I'm very, very thankful for this opportunity to come out here. Corey has always had an open door for me to be able to come out here. Just sometimes time and life conflicts with being able to do it. But nevertheless, there's no hidden agenda to come on here before Boston. It was just more along the lines of good timing and baseball coming to an end, and an opportunity to be able to come out and share hopefully something that would be beneficial for individuals out there. And so taking this opportunity just means a lot to me. Again, the whole pay it forward, it really speaks to me. And if I always said, if it helps one person out there, if there's one individual that's listening that can take something from this episode and apply it to their stewardship or their representative duties, then it was a success. And there's no other way to look at it. So if you are an individual that is very, very fluent in this topic, or you have all the knowledge about this specific topic, then great. Then that's an individual that I want to be paying it forward to somebody else. You need to be helping and assisting others to get to where you are at. But if there is not somebody out there that is as fluent in this particular subject matter and that are dealing with this, then we want to take this opportunity to do the best that we can in a platform and an opportunity to do so. So with that being said, I'll try to cut down the banter. Sorry, I tell Corey sometimes, well, you gave me the microphone, and before I knew it, I'd been talking about absolutely nothing for 30 minutes. But anyhow, definitely glad to be back. Appreciate all the faithful listeners out there kicking into more of an educational episode. And I am very, very hopeful this will be something that you can utilize moving forward. Not too long ago, probably about the second week of May, I started noticing a change in some of the clock rings and the disciplinary actions that I was receiving, where LWOP was no longer being granted, or they were no longer administering leave without pay. LWOP is the acronym. And it was arbitrarily being changed to AWOL, even when the employee had notified management of an unscheduled absence. When I began to investigate this situation, the management team that I was meeting with, and at this particular time, they had broken my installation up into 8 Formal A designees. Now, it was just myself as the union's Formal A designee, but management had broken up my city, my installation, into 8 designees to represent 16 stations. So I was meeting with a lot of different people, and when I began to question and investigate this matter, all of them had the same answer. A couple of them even told me that it was something that was being pushed directly from headquarters, that LWOP will no longer be approved, that they're wanting to reduce the amount of LWOP hours in installations and stations. And so moving forward, their whole stance and position or blanket policy was that any individual that calls in unscheduled without an appropriate leave balance, they would be considered absent without leave. And it is a complete play on words that they are absent, meaning absent from work, and they do not have any leave. So immediately I recognized that it was a blanket policy. Anytime, stewards, that you have somebody that is communicating to you that this is the policy from up above, no matter if it's from the postmaster, the installation head, headquarters, the district level, whatever it is, you want to get that on record. And the best way to get something on record is the form of an interview. Interview helps shrink the record. The better that we can shrink management's position at the informal or formal step A level gives us better chances moving forward to be able to keep their opportunity to be able to defend themselves. That prevents them from later on coming in and saying something different. If you've already established through an interview that this was their position or this was their contention or their response, then as the grievance moves forward to DRT or to potentially arbitration, that's going to be an asked and answered question. They're not going to be able to come in and just completely remove their answer when a arbitration advocate for labor gets a hold of that and tries to persuade them to modify their answer or change that answer to better suit their arguments or their counter arguments moving forward in hearing. So when we hear things like policy or blanket, that is something that we want to get on record, and that will go in the form of an interview. So the individuals in my installation that no longer had a sufficient leave balance, either because they've obviously exhausted their annual leave and or sick leave, and the only thing left that they had was leave without pay, LWOP, but management was arbitrarily changing that based upon the fact that they were stating that the employee was absent, but they didn't have leave. So the particular first grievance that I had, and that we're going to go over with the provisions that I contended against in this particular case, was we had an individual that only had about 4 hours of annual leave. They called in for emergency annual leave for the week. Well, obviously they only had the 4 hours, not enough to cover the entire week. Management did not even grant the 4 hours. They went in and arbitrarily listed this individual as AWOL. Now, the individual was absent for a period of more than 3 days, so the documentation requirement under 513.361 of the ELM did kick into place, but this individual did bring substantive documentation to be able to satisfy the documentation requirements of the ELM, but nevertheless, they still would not change the leave from AWOL to LWOP. So we had to file a grievance on this individual's behalf. Now, where are we going to start as far as the provisions that outline the governing duties as far as how leave will be administered? What provisions are particular in governing the leave provisions in our contract? So getting started, there's 2 ways that this could be accomplished. And first, we're always going to resort to the JCAM. And if we go to the table of contents in the JCAM, that we will see right there in the very beginning, leave will be found in Article 10 of our Joint Contract Administration Manual. If you go to the index in the back of the JCAM, when you look up leave, it will also point you in the direction of what article it is found in, but it'll also break it down into subcategories as well if you're wanting to identify or investigate a particular situation as it pertains to possibly annual leave, sick leave, leave without pay. So you'll get more of a breakdown, categorized version in the index versus the table of contents. So when we turn to the beginning of the JCAM on Article 10, it states right there on the first page, in page 10-1, the rules governing the various types of Postal Service leave are contained in several source documents. Article 10 contains the National Agreement's general provisions concerning the leave program. Article 10 guarantees continuation of the leave program, sections 1 through 2, outlines the national program for the use of annual leave through vacation planning, sections 3 through 4, provides for sick leave, section 5, and states certain additional leave rules concerning minimum leave charges and leave without pay, section 6. This material explains the main provisions of Article 10, summarizes other important leave rules, and gives references to more detailed provisions concerning leave. It does not attempt to cover all of the detailed leave regulations contained in the ELM, which is the Employer Labor Relations Manual, subchapter 510, or the FMLA. So right there in Article 10, it starts off about our leave provisions. And it also gives credence to subchapter 510 of the Employer Labor Relations Manual. Section 510 is our employee benefits. It's going to cover everything as far as our employee benefits pertains towards leave. So we're immediately going to go to the employee benefits, subchapter 5, to go ahead and get knowledge about the leave regulations and what postal officials are required to do as far as their responsibilities in administering those leave provisions. So 2 things. One, we have an individual that called in with proper notification, brought proper documentation, but in return was arbitrarily given absent without leave, or AWOL. So when you first turn to subchapter 510 leave, right there in the very beginning, section 511.2, this is the responsibilities section of postal officials. Now, there's going to be some reading through this. We're going over contracts, so not to try to bring a real snoozer in here, but nevertheless, we want to be fluent and knowledgeable about our contract provisions and the exact wording of those provisions so we can be able to file a successful grievance. So the responsibilities of the postal officials are A, they're responsible to administer the leave program. B, inform employees of their leave balance. C, approve or disapprove leave request. And D, record leave in accordance with Handbook F21 time and attendance. E, controlled unscheduled absence. So right there in the postal officials' responsibilities under Section 511.21, little d, as it pertains to postal officials must record leave in accordance with Handbook F21 time and attendance. Now, if you've never heard of the F21 handbook, It's going to be the handbook that pertains to all our time and attendance and how postal officials must apply the responsibilities of timekeeping. When you go in, and if you have access to a computer and you're looking at the F-21 handbook through Adobe or a similar type viewer, if you're like me, I like to use the Control F, the Control Find button. I want to be able to look up specifically what I'm looking for, and this will help you be able to get to what you're looking for as quickly as possible. When I hit Control F and I type in absent without leave, or AWOL, use the acronym AWOL, it immediately is going to tell you how many times this word is listed in this handbook and will allow you to quick search and go directly to the provision where it is listed. This is going to help you to be able to define what the Postal Service deems absent without leave is. And that is going to be one of our first hurdles, is to be able to understand what is the Postal Service's definition of AWOL. Because prior to this, anytime I ever heard AWOL, I guess I automatically thought military. I never served military, but you just hear that term used a lot with military. And that is a person that you just don't have any idea where they're at. You haven't heard from them, you haven't seen them. And that was the term that they used, that they were AWOL. We don't know. We have no idea or where this individual could be or heard from. That was my understanding as well, but I wanted to see what the Postal Service's definition of AWOL was as well. It will stop you at section 142.33. This is absent without leave. An employee who does not call in is considered absent without leave or permission, AWOL, until the facts in the case are received. The pending AWOL charge should not be entered on the time card at this time. The time card entry should be made after the facts have been received as described in Chapter 3. Okay, so that right there tells us immediately that the Postal Service's definition is in line with what my common knowledge definition was. It's an individual that has not called in or is absent without permission. And so they have not gained prior permission to or has not called in. Now, there's a couple platforms that we utilize now to be able to notify management of an unscheduled absence, and that is the IRMS request line, the phone number that we can call in and request leave through the IRMS notification, or through the online application through Light Blue. I'm not very familiar with that one, forgive me, but I have received many documents from this as far as confirmations and stuff like that, but just not a platform that I've utilized. But anyhow, this is the two ways that management can be notified of an employee's unscheduled absence. So when an employee either calls out via IRMS, they're given a confirmation number there as well, or when they utilize the online platform, they're given a confirmation number at the end of that, which I always recommend that an employee either screenshot, write that confirmation number down, just in the event that it's needed in the future. But this is direct evidence with that confirmation, along with many other postal program reports, that this individual is not absent without leave. Matter of fact, it's an individual who has called in and who has made management aware of that they are not going to be at work today due to unforeseen circumstances. Management is then responsible for making sure they do an investigation into all the facts if they haven't heard from an employee. And you say, JB, why wouldn't they have heard from an employee? Wouldn't that be AWOL? I mean, if an individual had a starting time of 7:30 and it is now 9:30 and management has not heard from this individual, would they not be considered AWOL? I mean, nobody knows where they're at. It's been almost an hour and a half, 2 hours now. Potentially could be, but management has a responsibility to not input that AWOL until they have received all the facts pertaining to the case. So, a situation or a circumstance could be simply, let's say you woke up in the middle of the night, 1:30. You got a terrible stomach bug. You're vomiting. You can't stop vomiting. Each time you try to lay back down, you keep getting up, getting sick and over again. And finally, somewhere about 5:30 in the morning, you finally get to lay down. and you have full intentions of either two things. One, hoping that by time to get up for work, that you're able to get up and be able to go to work, or two, you're going to be able to wake up in time to call management to let them know that you're not going to be there. But due to the fact that you were up most of all night, getting sick, completely exhausted, dehydrated, and just sick to your stomach, you didn't wake up on time. You slept through your alarm due to the exhaustion. But then around 9 o'clock, you pop up with that oh shit look and you run to the phone, or you run to the computer to be able to log in to call management or notify management that you will not be coming in today. When you return to work and you either bring documentation to support your absence or your statement to your supervisor or manager that this is what happened, that is when management has been made aware of all the facts in your particular situation. And AWOL wouldn't be proper. Should be allowed to input whatever type of leave that you would like to request for that duration of that time that you were not able to get to the phone or slept through the phone because you were completely incapacitated. But you were nevertheless not wanting to be absent without leave. You were not trying to be AWOL. Nevertheless, you were just so incapacitated that you just wasn't able to notify management. But once management became aware of all the facts, then that particular situation should not be considered AWOL. So we got the definition from the F21 Time and Attendance Handbook of absent without leave. But if you did a Control F search, it's going to prompt you to other provisions along the way. And it's going to take you to Section 393, which is specifically titled Absent Without Leave. It first gives you the definition. Absence without leave is a non-pay status resulting from a determination that no kind of leave, including LWOP, can be granted, either because the employee did not obtain advance authorization for the absence or the employee's request for leave was denied. Authorization and supporting forms in Section 393.31. All employees who are absent without notification. These are key words when we're looking through provisions that are going to support our position. Without notification. Those two words taken together, when an employee has properly notified management, goes in our contentions and in our grievance case file that the Time and Attendance Handbook specifically states all employees who are absent without notification or permission are considered AWOL, pending the receipt of the facts in each case. AWOL is an administrative matter which is to be handled by the head of the installation for purposes of making a final time recording disposition. Section 393.32. If an employee does not report for scheduled duty or is absent from duty during the scheduled duty period without proper prior notification, or if the timekeeper is the first person to determine that an employee is AWOL, they are to prepare a Form 3971 to the extent possible pending receipt of the additional facts. So both of those definitions taken together specifically talk about without proper notification or permission. So if we have documentation with the confirmation that the employee has properly notified management, along with other documentation that we can request through management, and we've already gained through our interview that this is a blanket policy, that this policy is being administered, that all LWOP will not be granted and will arbitrarily be given AWOL because, quote unquote, they are technically absent without leave. That's going to go together to show that this is really an inconsistent local leave policy that they've implemented. Taking that with the very first definition of absent without leave that I read in 393.1, it specifically states that it's a determination that no kind of leave, including leave without pay. So right there it ties in our leave without pay. So an individual, just because they've exhausted or they have an insufficient leave balance, that individual who has properly notified management of their inability to be able to make it to work, their incapacitation, they do not have an alternative leave to be able to select, then they may choose leave without pay. Now the hurdle
that's going to come with leave without pay really boils down to one word. And that word is discretion. Management is going to throw up the word discretion time and time again when it comes to leave without pay. Regardless if an employee is requesting leave without pay in advance, if in these particular situations they're requesting leave without pay because they have an insufficient leave balance, they're going to say, I have discretion to do whatever. And it's going to be our job to be able to show that that discretion that they took was arbitrary and capricious, that there was no reason really why they shouldn't grant leave without pay, because the ELM specifically states that employees that have insufficient leave balance may choose to have their leave coded as leave without pay. But that word discretion, as defined, is the freedom to decide what should be done in a particular situation. That's a damn dangerous word for management, is it not? I mean, I'm sure glad they don't have discretion to do whatever. Now, I've always told people management will do whatever, and then they can eat this grievance. But to have management be able to hold on to a word such as discretion is got to be the biggest feather in their cap. But we're going to do what we need to do to show that the matter goes against provisions in our handbooks and manuals, and that the decision was arbitrary and capricious. So we went to the F-21 handbook because that is specifically what the Employer Labor Relations Manual told postal officials that they must utilize in the administration of the leave provisions. Remember when we started a second ago, it started straight right off the bat with ELM section 511.21, little letter D, record leave in accordance with the handbook F-21 time and attendance. Now, our postal employees' responsibilities. 511.23 states, A, request leave by completing PS Form 3971, request for or notification of absence. B, obtain approval of PS Form 3971 before taking leave, except in cases of emergencies. Obviously, in this particular situation, this individual wasn't able to get advanced approval for the duration of their absence. This would be something that they submitted after the fact. Now, it is incumbent upon us to be able to help our brothers and sisters, not only defend them, but also to educate them in their responsibilities as an employee. We should always be educating our brothers and sisters to, when they come back from an unexpected illness or injury or an emergency, that it is their responsibility to fill out a PS Form 3971. Just like they do or would do if they were asking for days off in advance. But so many times, and y'all know it and I know it, so many times, employees come back and they just go back to their case and they start working and they don't fulfill their requirements. And then they get this computer-generated 3971 that management has printed off, and they freely just put their signature on it without giving it any type of review. We have got to help our brothers and sisters learn their responsibilities. It was something that before I ever became involved with the NALC, that the senior employees in my station made me aware of, that it was my responsibility to do. And right when I came back from any time that I had an unscheduled absence, the very first thing after clocking in and checking my vehicle and coming back inside to my case is I obtained a 3971 and filled it out in duplicate, if not triplicate. And I submitted that to supervision so I could make sure that I was submitting for exactly what I had requested through my unexpected illness. And that way I got to make sure that if it was sick leave or sick leave for dependent care, emergency annual leave, leave without pay, whatever it is that I had requested, I was making sure that I annotated that on my 3971 and submitted that to management. And that way, I didn't have to worry about them coming up to me with a computer-generated 3971 and having to read over it with a fine-tooth comb, making sure that they had not put something unlike what I had requested on their form. But you know it, and I know it time and time again. Employees, they don't even look at it. They just sign their name to it, or they just give it back and management puts refuse to sign. But we want to make sure that we always submit our own leave slip, our own 3971, requesting exactly what we requested in our unexpected illness or unexpected absence. In the particular case that I had, this person did come back, and they knew their responsibilities to submit their own 3971. They submitted a 3971, also provided documentation in support of their absence, had that signed received by management. Management just simply disapproved the 3971 with no reason given. Now, management has a responsibility in the approval or disapproval of the leave. When leave is disapproved, a reason must be given to the employee. In this particular case, the disapproved box was checkmarked, but there was no reason given to the employee. They also, in the request for information that we submitted, provided the computer-generated 3971s that were annotated RTS as refused to sign. And upon reviewing them, I understand why they didn't sign them. Because, like I told you a minute ago, they get to go in and put in whatever they feel like you should have. And they had put in that the individual was AWOL. And in the remarks column, they had annotated no call received. So this individual was well within their rights to refuse to sign a controlled document that had, one, absent without leave on there when they had properly notified management of their unscheduled absence, and the fact that it said in the remarks column that no call received when we had documentation through her confirmations that they had received confirmation or notification of her unscheduled absence. Along with some of the reports that we were able to obtain, which we're going to go over, we were able to show that management was well aware that they had proper notification, and how arbitrary and capricious that they were acting, that instead they not only administered absent without leave, they tried to manufacture through 3971s that they had not received any notification and that this individual was going to sign her name to an approved 3971 requesting AWOL. And by the way, you cannot request AWOL. You can request sick leave, you can request annual leave, and you can request leave without pay, but you cannot request to be AWOL. Because if you're requesting to be absent without leave, you're doing so while you're trying to notify management that you're going to be absent. So, nevertheless, this person had requested the 4 hours that they had of emergency annual leave, and then the rest of the time away would be notated as leave without pay. So we'll first stop in Section 512. Section 512 of the ELM is going to pertain towards annual leave. 513 will be your sick leave. 514 will be your leave without pay. And 515 will be your Family Medical Leave Act. But since we're talking about annual leave, and we'll touch on sick leave as well, and then we'll get right back into the final part of leave without pay, Section 512.43 is titled Insufficient Leave Balance. If the leave is approved and the employee has an insufficient leave balance, it is changed to LWOP when the employee's pay is processed. So this employee had requested emergency annual leave. She had an insufficient balance, and in turn, instead of having her leave charged to LWOP for pay purposes, they put her in as absent without leave or absent without notification or permission when she had documentation that management was notified in advance. As far as leave charge and leave charge adjustments, Section 513 as it pertains towards sick leave, but it also touches on sick and annual leave in Section 513.6. These three provisions are titled 1, 513.61, Insufficient Sick Leave. If sick leave is approved, but the employee does not have sufficient sick leave to cover the absence, the difference is charged to annual leave or to leave without pay at the employee's option. So, many times you see where an employee, per se, calls out for sick leave, 8 hours. Full-time regular calls in for 8 hours worth of sick leave, and they have a balance of 6.89 hours of sick leave. Instead of management utilizing the 6.8189 clicks of sick leave, and then asking the employee at their option what they would like the remainder, that 1.11, to be administered to, what does management do? Any opportunity that they can take to burn your annual leave up, they're going to take it. They won't even use the 1.11 clicks of annual leave. What they'll do is they'll type up insufficient leave balance, 8 hours annual leave. Employees have got to remember to keep up with their leave usage. Okay? When an employee calls out and they're under the impression that they just got 8 hours of sick leave, I can't tell you how many times that an individual has come to me weeks or months down the road when they're fixing to go on their vacation, and all of a sudden they notice that their annual leave balance is insufficient, or it's not as much as they thought they had, and we start investigating it. We look back and we see, oh, well, right here you had put in or called in for 8 hours sick leave. You only had the 6.89 clicks of sick leave. So what management did was, since you didn't have the sufficient leave balance, they took or arbitrarily took your 8 hours of annual leave away from you. And so then we would have to file a grievance, have to go through the pay adjust process to get that fixed. But if the employee would have been knowledgeable about it right then, if they would have also submitted a 3971 right then we could have probably cut this off before it got later down the road, because it simply says the difference is charged to annual leave or to LWOP at the employee's option. That means the employee picks whether you will use my damn annual leave, or if I want to utilize leave without pay for the remainder of that portion that I did not have sick leave to cover it. 513.62. This is insufficient sick and annual leave. So now we got the combination of both. We don't have enough sick leave or annual leave to be able to cover the absence. If sick leave is approved for employees who have no annual or sick leave to their credit, the absence may be charged as LWOP unless sick leave is advanced as outlined in 513.5. LWOP so charged cannot thereafter be converted to sick or annual leave. So it states right there that my absence can be charged to leave without pay when I have an insufficient sick or annual leave balance, unless I try to obtain advanced sick leave through section 513.5. Section 513.63, disapproved sick leave. If sick leave is disapproved, but the absence is nevertheless warranted, the supervisor may approve at the employee's option a charge to annual leave or a charge to leave without pay. So these are critical provisions to be knowledgeable about. This is what's going to govern our leave charge adjustments. It's going to be part of our arguments and our contentions moving forward when management arbitrarily assigns my leave as a particular, whether they want to take my annual leave, whether they don't want to administer sick leave, but also that in the event we don't have the sufficient balance at the employee's option, what we have available to us to be able to select, to be able to charge that unscheduled absence towards. Okay, so moving forward, hold on. I feel like I'm the most hydrated individual when I leave this podcast. I think I go through about 5 bottles of water. I know Corey comes back in here and he looks and there's 5 damn bottles of water, empty bottles laying over in the trash can, like, damn, you okay? But nevertheless, try definitely go through the water while we're sitting in here. But we're moving forward into section 514, which is going to cover leave without pay. That's out of the Employer Labor Relations Manual, the ELM. And it starts right off in section 514.1, essential features. The following definitions apply for the purposes of 514. LWOP is an authorized absence from duty in a non-pay status. LWOP may be granted upon the employee's request and covers only those hours that the employee would normally work or for which the employee would normally be paid. LWOP is different from AWOL, absent without leave, which is a non-pay status due to a determination that no kind of leave can be granted either because the employee did not obtain advance authorization or the employee's request for leave was denied. Section 514.22. This is where our hurdle comes. This is where we have to be able to show that their decision-making was arbitrary and capricious because of that one entitled word of discretion. but it's titled Administrative Discretion. Each request for LWOP is examined closely, and a decision is made based on the needs of the employee, the needs of the Postal Service, and the cost of the Postal Service. The granting of LWOP is a matter of administrative discretion and is not granted on the employee's demand except as provided in collective bargaining agreements or as follows. And it goes on to list the particular situations where LWOP will be granted. A disabled veteran is entitled to LWOP for medical treatment. A reservist or a National Guardsman is entitled to LWOP if necessary to perform their military training. An employee who requests and is titled to time under the Family Medical Leave Act is entitled to leave without pay. But in the very next page, on the very section 514.4, the Employee Labor Relations Manual goes on to demonstrate the acceptable reasons and instructions for leave without pay. Now, the Employee Labor Relations Manual covers all employees. It's not just governing letter carriers or clerks or custodians. It's for all employees. And 514.4 highlights the acceptable reasons and instructions for leave without pay. A. Personal reasons. LWOP may be granted to cover this absence. Employee has no leave to cover vacation during choice vacation period. Leave without pay may be granted to cover this absence. So, let's say you have your vacation planning for the beginning of the year, your choice vacation period, and so the employee submits a request to have a 40-hour leave during the choice vacation period. Now, I don't know, everybody's LMOU will govern the choice vacation period, but let's say whatever your choice vacation period is, an employee has submitted a request and has an approved vacation time during the choice vacation period. Well, unfortunately, before that individual's choice vacation period, unfortunate situation occurred that required them to utilize their available annual leave. And so that particular person no longer has a sufficient leave balance to be able to take their approved annual leave choice vacation period. Well, right here under acceptable reasons and instructions for leave without pay in letter B, it simply states the employee has no leave to cover vacation during the choice vacation period, and that the instruction is LWOP may be granted to cover this absence. So I know it's happened time and time again in my installation where management, as soon as that person falls to 39 hours, not the full 40, that down to 39 hours, they quote unquote, this individual doesn't have the sufficient leave balance to cover their vacation planning period. And we would have to file a grievance on this particular section of the ELM to cover this employee to show that yes, this employee already had an approved selection during the choice vacation period, and leave without pay can be used in addition to whatever leave he has, or if the individual can handle that much leave without pay, to cover his absence because he already has a planned vacation and management has already planned on him not being there, and he is already a part of the complement that is allowed off. So now this individual is willing to take leave without pay, and section 514.4 letter B gives him that opportunity to do so. Letter D, personal illness or injury. An employee may utilize annual and or sick leave in conjunction with leave without pay, LWOP, subject to approval of the leave in accordance with normal leave approval procedures. An employee need not exhaust annual leave and or sick leave before requesting leave without pay. So that's where we're going to go as far as that this individual had an unexpected illness or injury, had an insufficient leave balance, and section 514.4 gives management an acceptable reason and instructions to apply leave without pay for the duration of this employee's absence. Because by definition, through the F21 handbook, the time and attendance handbook, this employee has properly notified management. They have given management notification that they have an unscheduled absence and are not going to be at work today. So management now can utilize leave without pay because they are not AWOL, they're leave without pay. They're unscheduled absence. But nevertheless, management now wants to egregiously input them arbitrarily as AWOL. One may ask, why would they want to do that? I mean, it's still non-pay. They're not getting paid whether they're absent without leave, whether it's leave without pay. I simply think, because I think it looks more egregious, because management can utilize AWOL as a disciplinary matter. They can still use leave without pay as a disciplinary matter, but now that I'm starting to get disciplinary actions for attendance that are listing employees as AWOL, when I'm pulling the documentation that shows that they had notified management of their unexpected illness or injury, AWOL to a reader left unrebutted is going to look damning upon this person. It's going to look like this individual not only doesn't come to work, he doesn't even tell anybody he's coming. Where leave without pay is still a hurdle that we'll have to overcome because it's an unscheduled absence. An individual that lists numerous AWOL charges in their disciplinary action letter is going to be something that the reader is probably going to take more serious. Like I said, a reader is going to look at that as, this person not only doesn't come to work, this person doesn't care whether anybody knows he's not coming to work. Now, for me, on the other side of it, I feel like management is giving me more opportunity to argue against the disciplinary action. Because what do we do as shop stewards? What do we do as representatives? We try to pick every little thing apart that we can. We're going to do our best to demonstrate that the employee was utilizing the unscheduled that the individual incurred an unscheduled absence due to his incapacitation, and we're going to highlight that, this individual had something or medical documentation to help support his absence and give us something to fight for. But now we also have the part where we can pick apart that the disciplinary action letter, that the actual charge that they're charging the individual with is improper. And so now they've given us, to me, another hole to poke in their action packet. So, but that's my personal opinion on why I feel as if the individuals now are turning into wanting to get management to blanket all leave without pay absences will be notated as absent without leave, is to try to make it more egregious in the eyes of the potential reader from the DRT or an arbitrator moving forward. So we've been really sticking with the Employee Labor Relations Manual because in the very beginning of Article 10, that's what it refers us to as the more detailed provisions outlined in the subchapter 5. But we also are going to refer to Article 10 as well. And we're going to review what the collective bargaining agreement states as it pertains towards leave without pay. On page 10-16 is going to start your leave without pay. Down towards the bottom, it states an employee may request unpaid time off, leave without pay, by submitting a PS Form 3971. If the requested LWOP is for more than 30 days, the application must contain a written statement giving the reason for the requested LWOP absence, ELM Section 514.451. As a general rule, management may grant LWOP as a matter of administrative discretion. There are certain exceptions concerning disabled veterans, military reservists, and members of the National Guard. Also, a national memorandum of understanding establishes that an employee need not to exhaust annual leave and or sick leave before requesting leave without pay. See ELM Exhibit 514.4d. So now if we fast forward a couple of pages, we will see that memorandum of understanding that it was detailing back on page 10-16. And it states paid leave and LWOP. The parties agree that an employee need not exhaust annual leave and or sick leave before requesting leave without pay. As soon as practicable, after the signing of the 1990 National Agreement, Employee and Labor Relations Manual, Exhibits 514.4d, will be amended to conform to this agreement. The parties further agree that this memorandum does not affect the administrative discretion set forth in ELM Part 514.22. Nor is it intended to encourage any additional leave usage. The preceding Memorandum of Understanding, paid leave, LWOP, applies to city carrier assistant employees as well. That last part, as it pertains to CCA employees as well. Why would that be so important to the city carrier assistants? City carrier assistants don't accrue sick leave. They only accrue annual leave. And so when a CCA calls out for an unscheduled absence, management will automatically try to burn up the annual leave that CCA has accrued. So that's going to be pertinent in our arguments to show that management was arbitrary and capricious, that they did not have a request from the CCA submitting or notification through the IRMS system that they were requesting annual leave or emergency annual leave due to sickness or annual leave in lieu of sick, requesting annual leave for their unscheduled absence. And so that's going to be where we go to start our grievances, that Memorandum of Understanding and also the applicable provisions of the Employee Labor Relations Manual as far as management utilizing a CCA's annual leave without a signed 3971 from that individual or a request from that individual to utilize the leave that the Postal Service has compensated as a part of their benefit package. So the annual leave is given to employees based on a number amount of hours worked, and the employee has the option to utilize that annual leave in the event of personal emergency, illness, recreation, or rest at their discretion. But management wants to go in and take the opportunity to try to exhaust that annual leave from that city carrier assistant. So going back to the word discretion that we talked about a minute ago, that management has this freedom to make that discretion. What are we going to utilize in our contentions and in our arguments moving forward that this act of discretion was arbitrary and capricious? It's going to be the interview that you had with that supervisor or that postmaster or whoever it is that's telling you that this is for everything, that this is for everyone, that upper management, that district, that headquarters, that or the postmaster, whoever, has said there will be no more approval of leave without pay. That's arbitrary and capricious. It is no longer discretionary. It is no longer discretionary upon your supervisor to make their own independent judgment on whether your leave without pay will be approved or disapproved. And because you interviewed this individual, because you got it as a matter of record, as this grievance moves forward, as this case file moves to the formal step A or the DRT, or potentially arbitration, you've already established that management wasn't being discretionary at all. They were being arbitrary and capricious, and they were implementing a blanket policy that all leave without pay will no longer be, and that all leave without pay will be considered absent without leave. So that is how we're going to combat the discretionary measures moving forward. All right, so we went over numerous provisions, and those provisions are key. And so for anybody out there that is just getting started or trying to learn as much as they can, these provisions are going to help you to better understand how to combat management and how we're going to go about addressing their behavior and how they're dictating whether or not an employee or what type of leave will be administered in these particular situations. So now that we've gone over the provisions, we still want to bolster our position in our case file. And we want to obtain more documentation to be able to uphold that this individual has properly notified management, that management had notification or in advance, even though they didn't gain permission in advance, nevertheless they got notification in advance, and as defined in the F-21 handbook, that section 393, absence without leave is a non-pay status resulting from a determination that no kind of leave, including leave without pay, can be granted. So we have an insufficient leave balance. We're not going to receive compensation, and this gives us the alternative to select leave without pay to cover our unscheduled absence. It's not that we're AWOL, as management wants a reader to believe in the future. We were unscheduled. We did notify management, and we didn't have leave to cover it. Therefore, obviously, that would be considered leave without pay. In this particular case, I wanted to be able to show that the employee had properly notified management. Now, the employee through their due diligence, provided me the confirmations for each unscheduled absence. At first, it started off as 16 hours, then it was 16 more, then it was 8 more. But nevertheless, the employee each time recorded their confirmation or screenshot and was able to give that to me. But there is postal programs, obviously, that notate this unexpected illness or call-in as well. One of the first reports that we requested was through the IRMS program, and it was the IRMS Denied Leave Log List report. What this report is going to show you is the individual had notified management. It will show the unscheduled request that came through, what time it came through, how many hours they requested, and what type of leave they were requesting. Right below that, it will show the individual who denied that request. And it will also show what alternative leave they put in its place. Now, in this particular case, and definitely against the F21 handbook where it says the supervisor should determine all the facts prior to a determination of AWOL, management, upon each call out, arbitrarily right then and there denied the requested leave without pay and went ahead and arbitrarily inputted them as absent without leave prior to any investigation into the facts of why the employee had notified manager of an unscheduled absence. So that denied leave log list report is going to be very beneficial. That's a postal program. That's something internal that we can show an arbitrator down the road that this is management's documentation. This is their postal program, Mr. Arbitrator, where it annotates that they were properly notified by so-and-so employee that they were going to have an unscheduled absence, the leave type that they requested, and management arbitrarily, prior to any investigation into the facts, arbitrarily annotated them as absent without leave. This is their report. And so we're able to show that they administratively did this prior to the employee ever returning back to duty, before they ever had an opportunity to speak with this employee. Another report does come from IRMS as well, but it's just a different format. But it's also going to go to support our burden as far as being able to show that through numerous reports, management was obviously aware and had been properly notified that this employee was not going to be coming to work, which goes against the very definition of AWOL in accordance with their own handbooks and manual. But it's the IRMS 410 F0-05 Leave Management under the Leave Summary tab. And they can get this by doing a screenshot or what they call a snipping tool to be able to snip out the page to be able to copy it and to send it to you. The report, or what it's titled, again, is that IRMS 410 F0-05. It's under the Leave Management tab, and at the very bottom there's different tabs that they can click on, and you'll want the Leave Summary tab. The reason that you want the Leave Summary tab is because this one is going to be the tab that shows exactly what the employee called in requesting on the date of the unscheduled absence. And it's probably going to be in red because the denied leave will show up in red, and right below that it will show what management has arbitrarily put them in as. So in the particular case that I had, the individual had called in requesting a full day of leave without pay in lieu of sick leave, SWP, whatever they want to annotate it is, sick without pay, leave without pay. But this individual had requested leave without pay or sick without pay. Management on the same date immediately denied the request for leave without pay and annotated the employee in as absent without leave, or AWOL. 2400 is the tax EER code that you'll see in the employee clock rings. 024 is what is AWOL. So this is another report that's going to go to show that the employee did properly notify management, and management either immediately or sometime in the future prior to investigating all the facts with the employee determined that the absence should be considered absent without leave. You can get the PS form 3972. That is also going to show It's the leave analysis for an employee for the entire year, kind of a calendar-like for all the pay periods, but it's going to show what management has put into and annotated on the date of their unscheduled absence. I like to request the computer-generated 3971s that management fills out upon an unscheduled absence, because I want to be able to show the date that it was printed off, what time the call or request came in. And in my particular situation, it was very beneficial because in the remarks column, they had notated that this individual, no call received. Well, I had 3 or 4 documentations or documents demonstrating or illustrating that this person had properly notified management. And how arbitrary or capricious could an individual be by printing off a notification of absence with the remarks of no call received to the detriment of this employee that they may just sign it without even reviewing the form? So I'll request those 3971s to be able to identify exactly what they had put in and see if there's any little notations that we could use in our contentions as the case file moves forward. You'll definitely want to request, and hopefully they are some if the employee hasn't already given you his copy, which he should have obtained, but you'll want any handwritten 3971 submitted by the employee. If the employee did their due diligence when they returned back from an unscheduled absence, they filled out their own 3971 and they selected exactly what they were requesting. Now, in the particular case that I had, this individual didn't get a disposition, or got a disposition. It was disapproved, but no reason was given, which management is obligated to give a reason for a disapproved 3971. Potential other explanations you may see if they do give a reason is no LWOP approved, or stating per the M as a reason for disapproval. These responses are inappropriate and go against the leave regulations outlined in subchapter 510 and Article 10 of the National Agreement. So we're going to contest their responses or for their determination or reason that they gave us for the disapproval of a leave slip for leave without pay. You may get a determination or a reason that all LWOP must be requested in advance in order to be approved. Well, that alone goes against the ELM as well, because in section 513.332, there's an exception to the advanced approval, and it states that same thing. An exception to the advanced approval requirement is made for unexpected illness or injuries. However, the employee must notify appropriate postal service authorities as soon as possible of his or her illness or injury and expected duration of the absence. That's what the IRMS system is for. It is our notification and our request for 8 hours notifying management of the unexpected illness or injury, and the duration is for 8 hours. So meaning we'll be back tomorrow, but right now the expected duration is these 8 hours, and so I can't get advanced approval for my unexpected illness or injury. So there are numerous variations of this particular type of grievance, how it could go, and this was more in line with the particular situation that I was dealing with. But nevertheless, the provisions are going to be applicable in your situation moving forward. And the hurdle that I feel like we're always going to have to get over is to be able to show that the decision, the discretionary measures that management used were arbitrary and capricious. An individual may want to request a leave without pay absence in advance, and management disapproves it because they're saying all leave without pay is disapproved or needs of the service. But yet the complement was fully available for an employee to be off that day. Well, the argument, as I see it, could be made that the complement was available, that we had not met the station's complement of the percentage allowed off on a particular day, and that the individual submitted in advance a request for leave without pay, and that supervisor made an arbitrary decision because in section 514.22 it states that each request for LWOP is examined closely, and the decision is made based on the needs of the employee, the needs of the Postal Service, and the cost to the Postal Service. Well, one, an individual utilizing leave without pay is not going to cost the Postal Service anything. Two, if it's in advance, management has ample opportunity to plan so. And if the complement is available to the percentage allowed off in a particular day, then management should be able to allot that employee to take a day off as if they were going to be on annual leave or sick leave in advance as well. So my argument would be that they didn't examine it closely at all, that they went directly against the discretionary matter and just made it arbitrary and capricious, that they took it out on this employee and just automatically denied an LWOP request. So like I said, there are different variations of this, but mainly I wanted to go over the provisions. A lot of reading, and I apologize for that. I know this ain't the typical episode that we've been accustomed to here of late, but it was an opportunity to get back into the provisions of our handbooks and manuals and hopefully help those people that are out there dealing with this, give them a starting point, get them in a direction to be able to identify the provisions that we're going to be attacking. If those information requests or those reports would be helpful as well, I think that goes a long way to be able to show a potential reader down the line that management was properly notified. They were well aware, and they had ample opportunity to investigate the facts of the situation prior to a determination of AWOL. So, like I said, with the different variations, I just wanted to touch on the one that I was particularly dealing with when I was discussing it with Corey and kind of relayed the information to him that the individuals that I meet with, all of them were saying that, that was the new policy that had been put out, that there will be no more approval of leave without pay and that all leave without pay will be considered absent without leave. When I relayed that to him, he asked if I mind, when I finished working on this particular case, if I would come in and express to you guys what I had investigated and found and put together. So hopefully, again, like I said, if it helps one person, it was well worth my time this evening. Again, I can't thank the individuals that have helped me along the way, and I always want to take the chance and the opportunity to pay it forward, whether it's through this podcast, whether it's through steward training, whether it's through regional training that I've participated in from my regional business agent's office. Whatever I can do, I will do my best to do it. And that's always been my motto. I've never tried to say no or draw a line in the sand and not participate or help those people that have that call upon me to help. So again, look forward to seeing everybody in Boston. If you're going to be there, come find me. I'll be in Tennessee section of Region 8. Look forward to the entire week. Again, one of the things that I have always admired and loved about the NALC and the feeling, and I don't know if everybody gets this feeling, but I know I certainly do. It's just when we all congregate and come together under one roof. I can't tell you the feeling that it gives me as far as being there with other individuals that I'm associated with through my union and just everything being union. I don't think anybody else can understand that's not a part of it. My family doesn't understand it. My wife doesn't understand it. To understand it, you have to be a part of it. And it's a passion and a growing desire and something that I take a lot of pride of being a part of. And so, again, as far as my support for Mr. Henry, 110%, sir. Look forward to your endeavors and your push for this presidency. And along the way, I'm sure we'll have some interesting times. But Mr. Henry, I think, is a very, very capable individual. And if you disagree with that, I am fine to say I've been professionally agreeing to disagree for about 8 years now in this grievance process and in the union. So it's okay. But for me, I like the thought of change, and I like the thought of Mr. Henry being that change. So I look forward to the next 2 years and being supportive in any way that I can. And again, I look forward to seeing everybody. Leadership Academy, LA 25, my brothers and sisters, keep growing, keep paying it forward. It's what we're supposed to do. So again, Corey, appreciate everything that you've done. Look forward to many more. So until then, I hope everybody is safe. Have a lot of love for each and every one of you. And anything that I could ever do, I'll do my best to try to do it. And so for that, be safe. Love y'all. Talk to you again. Bye-bye.
All right, that's the one and only JB. There's nobody better to me as far as educating than Jason Leith. That dude is all that. And so I appreciate him coming out. Always appreciate him coming out. He does a lot of work for this branch, man. A lot of work. So just to take that time to come over and do an episode for y'all, I mean, that's money. So I will see y'all Sunday. We're going to talk about the convention. I'll also have a special guest on. He's wanting to get on here and vent. He's been wanting to vent for a while. So I told him he can get on here and vent before the convention. So he's going to come on Sunday and talk to y'all a little bit. And we're going to talk about Boston, all right? Then Mr. Vassar will come on sometime after that, midweek, and kind of recap what they're going to do as far as the building of Fighting NELC, all right? So y'all have a fantastic rest of the week. JB, I appreciate you, my brother, again. Your education is second to none. Your training is fantastic. So y'all have a fantastic rest of the week. Stay safe out there. I love each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you Sunday, all right? Bye.